Hello and welcome. I'm Annette Reeder from thebiblicalnutritionist.com, and today we're going to talk about COVID. I know we've talked about this several times. You hear it all the time in the news, but what I want to talk about today is I have some information for you. It is 24 pages long. I'm going to give you this handout and we're going to talk about it today. These are immediate steps that you can do to reduce the risk of COVID and the risk of long-term COVID complications. So we're going to talk about prevention, we're going to talk about how COVID affects your body, and we're going to talk about what you can do starting today, and I'm going to give you pages of resources. We already have this loaded up on my website. It's free, totally free, and this is just what I want you to get in your hands. I want you to print it off. I want you to have it ready. I want you to share it with everyone in your churches. This is not a biased information, has nothing to do with the vaccine, nothing to do with the mandates. This is just COVID facts. So I find this incredibly important, and I wanted to get it out to you as soon as possible. It seems many people on our team are being affected with their friends and family with COVID, and it's just really hitting home in so many more places than ever it did a year ago. So this is highly important. I want to get it out to you, and I want to make sure you have access to this video and, most importantly, this handout. So we're going to go ahead and get started, but please go ahead and hit like and subscribe and the bell on this YouTube. And if you're watching this on Vimeo, be sure and like it there. Share this with everyone you can. Get everyone to download this information. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and like the page. So here we go. I'm going to start with the introduction, and I'm going to share with you what are the 3 things that you need to know about COVID. Then we're going to go into some more details. Number 1 is COVID is a clotting disease. It's not a lung issue, it's a clotting issue. So understand this. It's an inflammatory clotting disease. When you understand what it is, we understand how to treat it or how to prevent it. It's not a lung disease. So if you don't stop the clotting factor, then a person dies. And that's what we want to do. It has been very successfully treated, very successfully prevented the increase of deaths if you follow the recommendations that I'm going to give you. Now, the first 7 days are critically important. So when you know someone who says, oh, I'm starting to get sick, and we're going to talk about the symptoms, you need to start treating it immediately. You do not, well, let me just wait a couple days and I'll test and then I'll decide what to do. No, no, nada. You start treatment immediately, and I'm going to share with you what I want you to do to get started. So it really starts out as just a viral disease for a week, and then it becomes an inflammatory disease. So what we want to do is interrupt that progression of the disease. We want to grab it in the first 5 days. We want to eradicate it. We want to stop the replication of it so that it can't go into an inflammatory disease. That's what's so important. And everything I'm teaching you, everything I'm telling you today is in this handout. So go, if you're like, hey, I don't have time for the video, go grab the handout right now, get it in your hands, share it with everyone you know. Okay, so the first 7 days are very important. Clotting really occurs between days 8 and 10 and up to day 11. So if you haven't had any clotting issues up until day 10, then that's not going to be a problem. Okay, then it is working its way to being resolved in your body. Point number three is you have effective options to protect yourself. And this is what I need you to understand. You do have options. Death is not a sentence that should be served with COVID. It should be one of those rare 0.02%, which it can be if you follow the protocol that I'm going to give you. Now, early treatment is best. Don't wait it out and think, well, maybe I'll get tested and see if I really have it and then I'll really get serious. No, serious from day 1, serious from first symptom. So when you delay things, that can be deadly. Now, if you do not make a do-it-yourself, what we're calling a DIY early treatment kit for COVID-19, you could be caught in a quandary. So I'm going to give you all of the details you need to have to make your own do-it-yourself effective treatment kit. early treatment kit. I'm going to give you all of that in the download. Now, I did not create this download. This has been put together by an organization that I highly, highly value, and I'm giving full credit to them in the download. I'm just helping them to get the message out. So just be aware of that I did not create this, and it is extremely well documented. So early treatments are effective, especially when they're guided by a physician that's committed to aggressive early treatment. Some physicians are in a wait and see mode. Well, if you get really bad, then go ahead and come into the hospital. No, that's not the physician that you want treating you or a loved one. So we have a list in this handout, in this document, where you can look up physicians in your area that are into early aggressive treatment to help you to recover quickly and recover completely. So be mindful of that. There are medications and there are supplements, and we're going to talk about that here, that are highly, highly effective, 99.8% effective, but you need to be working with a physician who's willing to give those to you. All right, let's talk about prevention, because most of us are there. We're in the prevention line. I'm preventing myself from getting COVID. And you're going to say when I get to this one point, Annette, you keep telling us that. I know, but are you really listening? Are you applying it? So let's talk about this. There's a word called prophylactic. Prophylactic, I'll put it up here on the screen so you can see it. This means to prevent disease. Most of what I teach you here at the Biblical Nutritionist to share with you God's recipe for excellent health, to show you what foods are going to build health in your body, how our emotional state matters to preventing disease, how our spiritual health totally overcomes illnesses and disease. And I teach you that for a reason, because I am teaching you the prophylactic approach to wellness. Well, you can be very much in a prophylactic state for preventing COVID. And you can do everything in your means to prevent it. So here's what I want you to do. Understand that there are medications, and I'm going to give you a list of those in the handout. I'm not going to talk about them specifically here on the video. I'm trying to keep this video as live as long as possible, that are very much antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and anti-clotting properties. Highly, highly effective. And in fact, at least 86% of people have been able to reduce the infection of COVID by using certain medications. And you can use these medications prophylactically. In other words, you could say, well, I'm just going to do this as a precaution. I'm not going to wait till I get COVID. I'm just going to take some medications as a caution. Or maybe sometimes if you're like, oh, I just heard I was exposed to someone who has COVID, then you might want to start on these medications. So find a doctor in the list that I give you, someone that you can connect with. Don't contact my office. Everything's in the handout. We can't help you any more than what's in the handout. But contact one of those links that I'm going to give you. Find a physician who's willing to work with you and be ready. Have everything on hand. What's interesting is it can take 1 to 2 doses once you get COVID with some of these medications, and you can be over it. So it is amazing. We've been fed fear, and I'm taking that away. I'm taking away the fear factor. Now, this next thing I want you to do to be prophylactic about your preventing disease or preventing COVID is vitamin D. Yes, I've taught you this. I've preached about it over and over and over. We have to have vitamin D. We have to have high levels of vitamin D in our body. So if you get a bad cold, and in fact, a couple weeks ago, I was kind of out of commission for 2 days. I kind of went down fast, but I popped back up fast because I did super high levels of vitamin D. If you have a high level of vitamin D, you're not going to die from COVID. My dad, who's 87, had a serious case of COVID with the first round that came out, and he was like ready to go to heaven. And I said, it's not your time, so get over it. You're not going to die. You're not going to heaven. You're going to get better, so let's start acting like it. And sure enough, I said, Dad, get your vitamin D level checked. Well, his D level was at 70. I'm like, well, sure, you're not going to die. You can't die at 70, I mean, I don't know that if you can or not, but it's not going to happen on my watch. And so I was just so proud of him that he had such a high vitamin D level. So, but I need you to have a high vitamin D level too. So if you were to ask me what are the top 3 vitamins anyone should take to work in preventing disease and overcoming disease, it's going to be vitamin D, and vitamin D. Yes, that's what I want you to take. So I have links on my website. We'll put them down below for a vitamin D that's a high dose vitamin D. It works really well in bringing up the numbers. So what happens when you get COVID? You start with a viral and then you kind of go into a tsunami effect with inflammation. That's a cytokine storm. And what we want to do is stop that cytokine storm. We want to stop that inflammation, hazard that can happen. And we do that by having high levels of vitamin D. So if your vitamin D level, which is going to say Ng/ml, which stands for nanograms per milliliter, if that is a 50 or higher, that cytokine storm is typically not going to happen or not be severe. So vitamin D, we get that from the sun, we get that from different foods. And even today we have enriched foods with vitamin D added in. It's not the best, but for some people it does help to a degree. Multivitamins have vitamin D, some protein supplements have enriched with vitamin D, and you can take vitamin D as a supplement. Okay, so when your vitamin D level is at 55 nanograms per milliliter, then your cells are saturated. And when they're saturated, that COVID virus that has all these spike proteins, it becomes coated. It's like, I got my gloves here for going outside. It actually becomes coated and it can't fit in the cell receptors. So this is your COVID, rah, and then you take you have high vitamin D levels, it coats it and it can't fit in the receptor. That's what vitamin D level does. That's what your vitamin D does. I hope that visual worked for you. So now let's talk some more. Okay, even in 2019, long-term supplementation with vitamin D3 in doses ranging from 5,000 to 50,000 IU per day is very safe. So don't be concerned about that. When I was early on, transforming my health and I was testing with my traditional physician, he says, "Oh, Annette, your vitamin D, it's over 35, that's all you need." I said, no, I need it over 50. That's the standard now. Well, then a couple years later, he's like, "Oh, Annette, you're over 50. That's where you wanted it, right?" I'm like, "No, now I want it over 70. So I would help educate him on where the vitamin D level is. Now, on the links down below, I have a link to a lab where you can order your own vitamin D. You don't have to go through a doctor to order vitamin D. They have physicians on staff at this lab and you can just order your vitamin D level anytime you want. I want you to order it every quarter, every 3 to 4 months until you get it to the level that it should be, 70 or higher, and you've learned how to maintain that level. So testing in spring, summer, fall, winter, and then later on you're just testing summer, winter. Are you able to maintain that? This is your lifeline. It's like you don't leave the house without your money or your credit cards in case something happens and you have to have something to buy. Well, you don't want to live your life without your wallet, your health wallet, being built up to having a vitamin D level of 70. That's how important it is. All right, let's move on. There's also information in this handout about getting a COVID injection and how to do it in the most healthful way. So check that out if you have to get that done. Now, you want to find a local or a telehealth doctor. Please don't contact my office. I've given you links in this handout and it was already supplied to us through the company that I got this from is cchfreedom.org, and I have all of this in the download so you don't have to write anything down. So there's also a website called earlytreatmentoptions.org. You can check that as well. You want to know what doctor is going to be working for you before you get into a crisis. Because when the crisis hits, the panic hits, the fear hits, you need to know your resources ahead of time. But if you know someone who is going to get the COVID vaccination, be sure and give them this handout. It gives them more helpful suggestions for having that done. Let's go back to prevention. We talked about prophylactic. We talked about all the different options there. There's many more on the handout. Now, you can have your own do-it-yourself early treatment kit. And all of this is outlined for you on this. So it's going to list different medications to have on hand. It's going to list, we want vitamin D3, we want to have vitamin C, and we want to have B complex. So B complex, and if you're over the age of 50, you want to have an extra B12. We want to keep that energy up and we want to keep that mindset. In a good mood. So vitamin D3, vitamin C as in citrus, and vitamin B as in be happy, and also B12. A multivitamin must have zinc and a good level of zinc. You even can take extra zinc if you prefer to. It doesn't hurt to have a bottle of aspirin, some Tylenol, ibuprofen. If you do get sick, you can take minimal doses of that just to kind of help alleviate some of those issues. A thermometer, you need a pulse oximeter. You can buy these at any of the different pharmacies around the area, and pharmacies are up everywhere on every corner around where I live. They have mushroomed more than any other commercial property in our area. A nebulizer, you can find that on Amazon. We use an air vaporizer. We keep that running in the evening too, at night when we sleep. And I have some other things on here as well that I want you to have ready in your emergency treatment kit. So there's a whole list of several things. You're going to see it in your handout. I kind of highlighted mine with some pink to have as many of those, if not everything, ready. Okay, so it gives you some other suggestions there. Now, I'm hitting the highlights. This, what I'm going to tell you right now, is extremely important. You need to have a power of attorney. You need to download those forms. There's blank forms out there on the internet to have your own power of attorney. You need to set aside someone right now while you feel healthy to have power of attorney over your choices if for some reason you were put into a hospital and unable to speak for yourself. You could have a car accident tomorrow. I'm not wishing this on anyone. We're praying Psalm 91. So I'm praying Psalm 91 over you. But if you know of someone that this might happen to, we have to have a power of attorney written out and updated. And if I know that my dad had one, but I don't think he's updated it in several years. So I need to talk to him and say, hey, you need to update that. We need to make sure it's current. Now, we want to make sure that when you go into a hospital, if you go into a hospital, there are certain criteria you have to follow. Now, I do this no matter what. I do this if my husband goes into the hospital, even if it's just the ER, we got something going on, or whatever. They're going to give you this form, and it's going to gives them blank consent to do whatever they want to you. I always scratch out all of those blank consents, and I always I scratch it out clearly that they can't overwrite it, and I write on there, no treatment option approved unless approved by myself or my power of attorney or my husband, Steve Reeder. This is very important. Otherwise, they have the ability to do whatever they want to you. And so even though I had that done when I had the lung issue, which I talk about in the Treasures of Healthy Living Bible study videos, even then they were trying to give me medication, and I would question every single medication they would bring to me. And I said, well, what's that? They said, well, it's an antibiotic. I'm not taking an antibiotic. And they said, well, we give it to everyone. No, I am not taking an antibiotic. And I said, I've also not approved an antibiotic. I totally irritated my doctor. He was so glad to get rid of me. But it's my body, it's my health, and I'm going to live a long term with whatever they choose to do in their flight of the moment. Now, I want to be respectful, but I want them to respect me as well. In fact, I was just at the dentist for a cleaning, and I got put with a different person I don't normally have because my regular person had called in sick for a family emergency. And this new girl was very new, and she was demanding to do certain things that I have clearly said on my chart, I do not do those things. Let's move on to the cleaning. And she got very irate with me. She says, I took an oath that I would take care of my patients. I said, well, right, I'm the consumer, and I have engaged in your business, and this is what I want done. I'm the consumer, it's my body, and I really should have asked, well, what oath did you proclaim to? So anyway, so on this list, there's 11 things that are suggested for inclusions that you want to put in writing if you or a loved one goes in the hospital. So whether or not you agree to or refuse the vaccination, whether you agree to or refuse ventilation, whether you want oxygen such as a CPAP or nasal cannula. You may think, well, why wouldn't I? Okay. Well, I'm not saying you do or you don't. I'm just saying you need to make this clear because it's your body and I want you to live a long, healthy life. You need to decide, do you agree or are you going to refuse a certain medication that can cause organ failure? You can also say, I want an advocate in my presence at all times. You can say that you have the right to do that. So there's 11 things on here you want to read and have this ready for you if someone you love is going to the hospital. Okay, now treating COVID infection. The symptoms. So let's go over some of the symptoms. It could be fever, chills, cough, fatigue, just kind of malaise. It could be, oh, I got a sore throat, or it could be a headache, loss of taste and smell. We're hearing a lot of that. Muscle or body aches, and all of this can lead to other problems. We have a friend who had these symptoms and it went straight into Bell's palsy, and that person is still dealing with the symptoms of Bell's palsy, and this has been a year ago. So this is very serious. It's serious. I take it seriously. I know you take it seriously too. Not as seriously that I'm going to live in fear, but in the fact that I'm giving you these answers so that you can have them. Remember this. The virus replicates for only 5 to 7 days. And after that, it becomes a clotting factor. So we want to hit it and hit it hard in those first 5 to 7 days. So there are certain different treatments that are listed on this handout for you to pay attention to. And some of the treatments are so effective that it turns it around in 24 hours. We should not have anyone we love ending up in a hospital because we should be having your emergency treatment kit should be ready to go. Everyone should have the emergency treatment kit. You should just have it. I would just invest in it and I would do it. And don't email my office, say, well, what is it? It's in the handout. Just go to the handout because I know you guys are going to flood our email box. So I'm trying to avoid a few of those emails. Now, let's go on to diet. This is my specialty. The diet when you are sick. No meat. Meat is harder to digest. It doesn't come with enzymes, and we need enzymes. We need massive enzymes. We need protease enzymes. I'm going to put a link to that down below. Protease enzymes just really helps our body to process inflammation, to get rid of inflammation. It's almost like remember the Pac-Man, game, gobble, gobble, gobble. It's almost like protease goes through and gobbles up inflammation. We need to get rid of inflammation massively. So protease, you can contact my office if you do the link down below to that specific protease, and I'll tell you what the treatment plan is for that. If you buy it somewhere else, I won't know because they're all different. We want juices. We want lemon juice, warm lemon juice, hot lemon juice, that's fine, whatever comforts you. Lime juices are good. We want lots of yogurt. Soup, if you can make some butternut squash soup or some pumpkin squash soup. Any of those soups would be really good. You could do rice. Just make sure it's very well cooked. We don't want anything irritating it. You can do eggs for high protein. You can do protein powders. I'll put a link to protein powder down below. But whatever, no sugar, no sugar. Get away from sugar. Sugar is going to exacerbate the symptoms. We do not need sugar, especially when you're sick with COVID. All right, there's more information on here about your oxygen levels, what to do if that becomes a critical thing. I also have information in here about how to sleep to avoid issues with blood clotting and things like that, what to do if you do get put in the hospital, how to handle that. And I just want you to know you have rights. You have rights. There's a story in here. It talks about a man who was intubated for a month. They sued this hospital, it was in Chicago, to give him a specific drug. Well, they won the lawsuit, and 15 days later he walked out of the hospital. And they had checked him out for hey, he's on the hospice list, pretty much is what they had done. His family sued, they won, they were able to get the treatment that they wanted. I hope you never have to go through that. But no, get this download right now. Get it in your inbox, get it and hand it out to everyone you know. 24 pages, lots of cited references. This was put together by Citizens Council for Health Freedom. Twyla Brace is amazing. She put this together. I'm just helping to spread the word so that you can have this information too. I wasn't sure if you would know about her to have seen this release, but I want this in your hands immediately. It's a free download on our website. Connect with her website too if you want to support them financially. They're doing amazing work to protect our health freedoms. It doesn't matter what your belief system is, we still all need to keep our health in order to finish this race well. Yet, to me, it does matter what your belief system is. I pray that you know God is your Savior. I pray you recognize that Jesus died on the cross for you. I pray that if you don't know Him personally, then that you just pray to Him today. Say, Lord, I want you in my life. I want you to be my Lord and Savior. I can't do this alone, and nor do I want to, because He loves you. You don't even, I kind of try to look a little bit nice when I get on these videos. You don't have to clean up anything to come to him. He wants you just as you are. Yes, we've got some sins in our life. Yes, we have some, yeah, you know. He doesn't care. He loves you as you are. And he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He has an everlasting love. He just wants you to come into his open arms and just say, Lord, I love you. Lord, I want you in my life. That is what matters. 24 pages of notes, yes, they're important. I want you to get that. But if you don't get this part of understanding Jesus died on the cross for you, we have only one true living God. No other gods exist. They're just in people's minds. One true living God. And he loves you. And I care about you too. You matter to me. Thanks for watching. Thank you for letting me be a part of your nutrition plan. I love being your personal nutritionist. I want to be your mom if you need one. I want to be your mother-in-law if you need one. I want to be your grandmother if you need one. Your great-grandma. Okay, now that's too old. I am not old enough to be your great-grandmother. So let's just get that clear. I want to be in your life because I want to help you finish this race well. Thanks for watching. I'm Annette Reeder at the Biblical Nutritionist. Please share this video with everyone you know. God loves you. Thanks.